I let my brother manage my house while I focused on my career. He changed locks and claimed ownership. Police reports, title searches, and court injunctions stopped the financial hijacking cold. You need to leave. This is my property now, and I have the paperwork to prove it. My brother Derek stood in the doorway of my house, the house I'd bought 5 years ago, with his arms crossed and a coldness in his eyes I'd never seen before. I'd been gone for 8 months. 8 months of 60-hour work weeks, business trips across 3 continents, and sleeping in hotel rooms that all looked the same. 8 months of building my consulting career from successful to exceptional. 8 months of trusting my younger brother to house sit, maintain the property, and forward my mail. I hadn't expected to come home to new locks and a brother who wouldn't let me inside. Derek, what the hell are you talking about? I kept my voice steady, but my heart was hammering. This is my house. My name is on the deed. Was on the deed. He pulled out his phone and held it up, showing me what looked like official documents. I filed an adverse possession claim 3 months ago. You abandoned this property. I've been the sole occupant, paying all the utilities, maintaining everything. The law is pretty clear about abandoned property. The words hit me like a physical blow. Adverse possession. Abandoned property. I didn't abandon anything. You were house sitting. I asked you to stay here while I was working. You have any proof of that? Derek's smile was thin and sharp. Any written agreement? Any rent payments? Any official documentation that you asked me to be here? My mouth went dry. We were brothers. I trusted him. Why would I need written proof? I've been paying the mortgage this entire time, I said. The utilities are in my name. The deed. The mortgage auto-pays from your account, sure. But you haven't been here. You haven't used this property. You haven't maintained a presence. That's abandonment in the eyes of the law. He stepped back and started to close the door. My lawyer says we have a solid case. You should probably get your own lawyer. Then he shut the door in my face. I stood there on my own front porch, staring at the new brushed nickel deadbolt that hadn't been there when I left. My hands were shaking. This couldn't be happening. I pulled out my phone and called Derek. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I called again. Same result. On the 3rd attempt, I heard the phone ringing inside the house, my house, and saw Derek's shadow pass by the front window. He was ignoring me. I walked around to the back, hoping maybe the sliding door to the deck was open. New lock there too. Through the glass, I could see my furniture, my books on the shelves, my framed photographs on the walls. Everything looked exactly as I'd left it, except my brother was living in it and claiming it was his. I tried the garage door. Changed. The side entrance. Changed. Every entry point to my own property had been locked against me. I sat down on the back deck steps, my mind racing. 8 months ago, this had all made perfect sense. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 32, single, ambitious. I'd worked my ass off for 7 years at a mid-sized consulting firm, and finally, I was being given the opportunities I'd been chasing. The senior partners wanted me to lead a major international project, high-profile client, serious money, potential for partnership by 35. But it meant extensive travel, weeks or months at a time away from home. I'd bought this house 3 years earlier, right after a promotion. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 3 bedrooms, small yard, good neighborhood. I'd been proud of it. It represented stability, success, putting down roots. But I couldn't leave it empty for months at a time. Derek had seemed like the perfect solution. He was 27, between jobs, recently broken up with his girlfriend, and needing a place to stay. I'd offered to let him house sit. Free rent in exchange for keeping the place maintained, collecting mail, making sure nothing went wrong. It seemed like I was helping him out while solving my own problem. He'd agreed immediately. Seemed grateful, even. I remembered the conversation clearly now, sitting on these deck steps. We'd been at our parents' house for Sunday dinner. Mom had been worried about Derek, kept making pointed comments about him, finding direction, and taking responsibility. Derek had looked miserable. I'd pulled him aside after dinner. Hey, I've got a proposition for you. He brightened immediately. Yeah. I'm going to be traveling a lot for work over the next year or so. I need someone to watch my house. You need a place to stay. Interested? Seriously? You'd let me stay at your place. Free rent. All I ask is that you take care of the property, keep things clean, forward any important mail to me. Deal. We'd shaken hands on it. I'd given him a key the next day. No contract. No written agreement. Just brothers helping each other out. Now I was locked out of my own house, and he was claiming legal ownership. I called a lawyer. Actually, I called 3 lawyers before I found one who would see me that same afternoon. Her name was Victoria Chun, and her office was downtown, all glass and dark wood and impressive frame degrees. "Tell me everything," she said, pen poised over a legal pad. I told her. The international project, Derek house sitting, coming home to change locks and claims of adverse possession. She took notes, her expression neutral. "Do you have anything in writing?" she asked when I finished. "Any text messages or emails discussing the house-sitting arrangement?" Let me check. I scrolled through my phone, searching for messages with Derek. There were plenty over the past 8 months. Updates about work, family stuff, casual conversation. But nothing explicitly stating he was house-sitting. Because we discussed it in person. Because he was my brother. Nothing concrete, I admitted. We talked about it face-to-face. "Have you been paying the mortgage and property taxes?" "Every month, automatically." "Good. That helps." "Utilities?" "In my name, but I set up automatic payments before I left. I wanted to make sure everything stayed on while Derek was there." Victoria tapped her pen against the legal pad. "Here's the thing about adverse possession. Your brother is either incredibly stupid or he's been very badly advised. Adverse possession requires continuous, open, notorious, hostile, and exclusive possession for a specific period of time. In this state, that's 10 years. Relief flooded through me. 10 years? I've only been gone 8 months. Exactly. He has no case. None. Adverse possession claims take years to establish, and even then, they require that the possession was hostile, meaning without the owner's permission. You gave him permission to be there. So what do? First, we file for an emergency injunction to get you back into your property. This is cut and dry. You're the legal owner. Your name is on the deed. You've been paying all carrying costs. We'll have you back in your house within 48 hours. And Derek, we'll serve him with eviction papers simultaneously. He's a tenant at best, a squatter at worst. Either way, he's out." She leaned forward. "I have to ask, is there any possibility he actually believes he has a legal claim? Or is this a deliberate attempt to steal your property?" I thought about the coldness in Derek's eyes, the prepared speech, the document on his phone. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Then we're also filing a police report for theft of property and filing a lease pendens. That's a notice of pending litigation against the title. It'll prevent him from trying to sell or refinance. Does he have access to your personal documents? Social security number, financial information? My stomach dropped. Everything's in the house. My file cabinet, my computer. We need to move fast then. I'll draw up the paperwork now. Can you get me proof of ownership? Your deed, mortgage statements, anything showing continuous ownership and payment. I have digital copies of most of it. The deed is in the house, but I can get a copy from the county recorder's office. Perfect. Do that now. I'll have the injunction ready to file first thing tomorrow morning. I left her office feeling both better and worse. Better because I had a lawyer and a plan. Worse because this was really happening. My brother, my own brother, was trying to steal my house. I drove straight to the county recorder's office. The clerk was helpful, printed me a certified copy of my deed for $15. There it was in black and white. My name, the property address, the date of purchase 5 years ago. Legal, official, indisputable. I took a photo and emailed it to Victoria. Then I sat in my car in the parking lot and called my parents. Mom answered on the second ring. "Honey, we didn't expect to hear from you today. Are you back from Singapore?" "I'm back. Mom, I need to talk to you and Dad. It's about Derek." Her tone shifted immediately. "What's wrong? Is he okay? Can I come over?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my childhood living room. The same floral couch I remembered from high school. The same family photos on the mantle. Mom and Dad sat across from me, concern etched on their faces. I told them everything. Dad's face went red. "He what?" "He changed the locks and says he's claiming the property through adverse possession. He won't let me in." "That's ridiculous," Mom said. "You own that house. We were at the closing. We helped you move in." "I know, Mom. I've got a lawyer. We're filing for an injunction tomorrow. But I needed you to know what's happening." Dad stood up and started pacing. "I'm calling him right now." "Dad, wait." But he already had his phone out. I heard it ringing on speaker. Derek answered. "Hey, Dad. What the hell do you think you're doing?" Dad's voice was shaking with anger. "Your brother is here telling me you've locked him out of his own house." Silence on the other end. "Derek? Answer me." "Dad, this is between me and him. Stay out of it." "Stay out of it? You're trying to steal your brother's property." "I'm not stealing anything. I have a legal claim. I've been the sole occupant for 8 months. He abandoned the property. The law is on my side. Mom grabbed the phone from Dad. Derek Anthony, you listen to me. That house belongs to your brother. He asked you to house sit. This isn't a legal claim, it's theft. Mom, you don't understand property law. I understand that you're betraying your brother. Your own brother, who helped you out when you needed a place to stay. He got to buy a house at 27. Derek's voice was suddenly sharp, bitter. He got the high-paying job, the career, everything handed to him. I've been working just as hard, and what do I have? Nothing. This is my chance to finally have something. The words hung in the air. So this is about jealousy? I said quietly. About me having something you don't. This is about fairness. About me finally getting what I deserve. By stealing from your brother? Dad had taken the phone back. That's not fairness, Derek. That's theft. And if you don't unlock that door and let your brother back into his house, you're going to be dealing with more than just family disappointment. You're going to be dealing with the police. Do what you have to do, Dad. I've got a lawyer too. We'll see who wins. The line went dead. Mom was crying. Dad looked like he wanted to put his fist through the wall. I felt numb. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't want to drag you both into this. Don't apologize. Dad sat down heavily. This isn't your fault. Derek, I don't know what happened to him, but this isn't the boy we raised. He's always been jealous, Mom said softly, wiping her eyes. Ever since you two were kids. You got good grades easily, you got the scholarships, the job offers. Derek struggled more. We tried not to compare you two, but he compared himself to me. I finished. She nodded. I thought he'd grown past it. I thought when you offered to let him stay at your house, it was you two finally having a good relationship. I was happy about it. So was I. We sat in silence for a moment. What happens now? Mom asked. My lawyer files for an emergency injunction tomorrow. I should be back in my house within a couple days. Then we evict Derek and hopefully this whole thing ends. Hopefully, Dad repeated, but he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. I spent that night at a hotel near my house that I couldn't access. I lay awake thinking about Derek, about the venom in his voice when he talked about fairness and what he deserved. How long had he been planning this? Had he agreed to house sit with this in mind from the beginning? Or had the idea come to him gradually, over months of living in my space, using my things, sleeping in my guest room? When had my brother become someone I didn't recognize? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Derek. You're making a mistake involving lawyers. We can work this out between us. I'm willing to discuss a buyout. I stared at the message. A buyout. For my own house. I typed back. There's nothing to discuss. That's my property. Open the door or deal with the court. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Fine. But you're going to lose more than just money when this is over. Think about what this is doing to Mom and Dad. My hands clenched around the phone. He was trying to manipulate me. Trying to make this my fault for involving lawyers and hurting the family. I didn't respond. The next morning, Victoria called at 8:30. We're filing in an hour. I need you to meet me at the courthouse. I was there in 20 minutes. The paperwork was extensive. Emergency motion for injunction. Eviction notice. Police report for unauthorized property access. Lease pendants filing. Victoria had prepared everything overnight. The judge will review this today, she explained as we walked into the courthouse. Emergency injunctions get priority. I expect we'll have a ruling by this afternoon. That fast. This isn't complicated. You own the property, you have proof, you've been paying all costs, and there's no valid adverse possession claim. The judge will see through your brother's nonsense immediately. We filed the paperwork with the clerk. Victoria spoke to a few people, called in some favors, got us on the emergency docket for 1 p.m. I spent the morning in a coffee shop, trying to work, but mostly staring at my laptop screen. At 12:45, Victoria texted me, "Courtroom 4. Don't be late." I wasn't. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, that distinctive smell of old building and bureaucracy. Victoria was already there, organizing papers. Derek wasn't. Is he required to be here? I asked. No. This is an ex parte hearing, one-sided. We present our case, the judge rules. He'll be served with the order afterward. The judge arrived at 1:05. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and a no-nonsense expression. She took her seat, reviewed the paperwork for what felt like an eternity, then looked up at Victoria. "Counselor, walk me through this." Victoria did. Clear, concise, compelling. Showed the deed, the mortgage statements, the property tax payments. Explained that I'd been continuously paying all costs, that Derek was there with permission as a house sitter. that there was no basis for any adverse possession claim. The judge listened, making notes. And the respondent has changed the locks and refused the plaintiff entry to his own property? She asked. Correct, Your Honor. On what grounds? He claims adverse possession based on 8 months of occupancy. The judge's eyebrows rose. 8 months? In a state with a 10-year requirement? Yes, Your Honor. She looked at me. Sir, why did you allow your brother to stay at your property? I stood. I was traveling extensively for work, Your Honor. I needed someone to watch the house. My brother needed a place to stay. It seemed mutually beneficial. Did you charge rent? No, Your Honor. He was doing me a favor by house sitting. Did you have a written agreement? No, Your Honor. He's my brother. I trusted him. She nodded slowly, made another note. I've seen enough. This is clearly a frivolous claim on the part of the respondent. The plaintiff has demonstrated continuous ownership and payment of all property costs. The respondent has no legal basis for possession. She signed something with a flourish. Emergency injunction granted. The respondent is ordered to immediately return all keys and provide access to the plaintiff. If he fails to comply within 24 hours, the county sheriff is authorized to enforce entry. Eviction proceedings to follow. She banged her gavel. Next case. Victoria was grinning. Told you. I felt weak with relief. So that's it. I can get back in my house. We need to serve him first, but yes. Once he's served, he has 24 hours to comply. If he doesn't, we bring the sheriff. Can we serve him now? Already arranged. Process server is waiting outside your house. Let's go. We drove in separate cars. Victoria got there first, and when I pulled up, she was talking to a man with a clipboard. My house looked the same as yesterday. Normal suburban home, well-maintained lawn, nothing to indicate the chaos inside. Derek's car was in the driveway. The process server walked up to the door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Derek Whitmore? I have legal documents for you. Still nothing, but I saw a curtain move in the front window. The process server rang the doorbell. Knocked again. Mr. Whitmore, I know you're home. I can leave these on the door, or you can accept them in person. Your choice. The door opened. Derek stood there in sweatpants and one of my t-shirts. The irony wasn't lost on me. What? He said. Derek Whitmore. The process server held out an envelope. You've been served. Derek took it automatically. The process server handed him a pen. Sign here confirming receipt. I'm not signing anything. Then I'll note service was refused but completed. He made a mark on his clipboard. You've been officially served notice of an emergency injunction ordering you to provide immediate access to the property owner and eviction proceedings. You have 24 hours to comply. Derek's face went white as he opened the envelope and scanned the documents. This is bullshit, he said. I have rights. You have 24 hours, Victoria said calmly. After that, the sheriff comes and removes you by force. Your choice. Derek looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time since yesterday. You're really doing this? You're really going to have your own brother arrested? You locked me out of my own house and tried to steal it, I said. What did you expect? I expected you to understand. To finally help me out for once instead of just flaunting your success. Flaunting? I offered you a place to live rent-free. I helped you out. You've never helped me. You've always been the golden child, the one who succeeds at everything, while I'm the screw-up. Well, I was finally going to have something for myself. Something you couldn't take credit for. By stealing from me. His jaw clenched. Get off my property. It's his property, Victoria said sharply. And you have 24 hours. She turned and walked back to her car. The process server followed. I stood there for another moment, looking at my brother. I don't know what happened to you, I said quietly. But this isn't who you are. You don't know who I am. You've never known. He slammed the door. I drove back to the hotel, feeling hollow. Victoria called an hour later. He's going to fight this. I just received notice that he's retained counsel. Attorney named Marcus Webb. What does that mean? It means instead of accepting the inevitable, he's going to drag this out. Webb is going to file a response to the injunction, probably argue that Derek had an oral lease agreement or that there's some dispute over ownership. It won't work, but it'll delay things. How long? Days, maybe a week. But the injunction stands. He has to let you in. If he doesn't comply by tomorrow afternoon, we get the sheriff involved. I spent another sleepless night in the hotel. At 1 p.m. the next day, exactly 24 hours after the injunction was granted, Victoria and I stood outside my house with a sheriff's deputy. A locksmith waited in his truck down the street. Derek's car was still in the driveway. Victoria knocked on the door. Mr. Whitmore? This is Victoria Chun, legal counsel for the property owner. You've been served with a court order requiring you to provide access to this property. Please open the door. Nothing. She knocked again. Mr. Whitmore? If you don't open this door, the sheriff's deputy is authorized to force entry. The deputy stepped forward. Sheriff's Department. Open the door now. Still nothing. The deputy nodded to Victoria. I'm authorized to enter. He tried the door handle first. Locked. He knocked one more time, loud and official. This is the sheriff's department. I'm entering the property on authority of a court order. He pulled out a tool that looked like a small battering ram. Before he could use it, the door opened. Derek stood there, dressed now, a backpack over his shoulder. His face was hard, but his eyes were red. You win, he said flatly. Happy now? I just want my house back, I said. Here. He threw a ring of keys at my feet. 3 keys, front door, back door, garage. It's all yours. Hope it was worth destroying your family over. I didn't destroy anything. You did this. He pushed past me, heading for his car. Wait, the deputy said. You're removing property from the premises? My property. Derek gestured to the backpack. My clothes. My laptop. I'm allowed to take my own stuff. No removal of items from the property until the eviction is complete and inventory is taken, Victoria said. Derek's expression turned venomous. You're really going to do this? Really going to have every little thing cataloged like I'm some kind of criminal? You tried to steal a house, I said. Yeah, we're going to make sure nothing else goes missing. He threw the backpack on the ground. Fine. Keep it all. Keep everything. I don't want anything from you. He got in his car and drove away without looking back. The deputy and I did a walkthrough of the house. Everything looked normal at first. My furniture was where I'd left it. My books on the shelves. My photos on the walls. But as we went room to room, I started noticing things. The television in the living room wasn't mine. It was newer, bigger. Derek's. The laptop on the kitchen counter. His. Clothes in my bedroom closet mixed with my clothes. His toothbrush in my bathroom. Food in the refrigerator, dishes in the sink. His life integrated seamlessly with my space like he'd always lived here. In the spare bedroom I'd left set up as an office, everything had been rearranged. My desk moved to the corner. A new desk, his, set up by the window. His gaming setup where my bookshelves used to be. My file cabinet was there though, and my computer. I opened the file cabinet. Papers were disorganized, rifled through. My birth certificate was missing. Social security card missing. Passport, still there, but it had been moved. He was going through my documents. I said. The deputy made a note. Check your credit report. File a fraud alert if you need to. In the master bedroom, I found a notebook on the nightstand. Derek's handwriting. I shouldn't have opened it. It felt invasive. But this was my house, and I needed to know what he'd been planning. The first page was dated 6 months ago. Day 64 in the house. Still can't believe he just gave me the keys and left. Like always, he has everything and shares the scraps when it's convenient for him. He gets the career, the money, the house. I get to house sit. Well, maybe it's time that changed. My stomach turned. I flipped through pages. Entries every few days, chronicling his growing resentment. Entries about researching property law, about adverse possession, about how long he'd need to stay before he could make a claim. Talk to a guy who says if I can prove abandonment and continuous occupancy, I might have a case. Long shot, but worth exploring. Would serve him right to come home and find out he doesn't own this place anymore. More pages. More planning. Change the locks today. He won't be back for months anyway. If he shows up, I'll deal with it then. Marcus says the longer I'm the sole occupant, the better my case. Just need to establish a pattern. Marcus Webb, his lawyer. This had been planned for months. The last entry was from yesterday. They're serving me tomorrow. Can't believe he actually got lawyers and courts involved. Can't believe he'd do this to his own brother. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It's always been about him winning, me losing. Well, not this time. Marcus says we can fight this. Says there are technicalities we can exploit. I'm not giving up. I closed the notebook and handed it to Victoria. Evidence of premeditation. She flipped through it, her expression growing harder with each page. This is good for us. Shows this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated attempt to steal your property. What happens now? Now you file a police report for identity theft based on the missing documents. We complete the eviction. We probably file a civil suit for damages. And you change every lock, password, and security code on this property. The locksmith showed up and changed all the locks. New keys, new codes for the garage. While he worked, I started going through the house more carefully. I found paperwork in Derek's desk, copies of my deed with notes in the margins, printouts of adverse possession laws, a draft quitclaim deed with my forged signature, never filed. He'd actually planned to forge my signature and try to transfer the title. I called the police, filed a report for attempted fraud, identity theft, and theft of personal documents. The officer took photos of everything, collected the notebook and the forged documents. "Your brother?" he asked as he filled out the report. "Yeah." He shook his head. "Family cases are always the worst. You sure you want to press charges?" "I'm sure." Over the next week, I threw myself into reclaiming my house and my life. I changed every password on every account, put fraud alerts on my credit reports, filed for replacement copies of my birth certificate and social security card, documented every item in the house with photos and inventory lists for the eviction proceedings. Derek's lawyer filed a response to the eviction, claiming Derek had an oral lease agreement and was a legal tenant. Victoria demolished it in her counterfiling, pointing out that even if there had been an oral agreement, which I disputed, Derek had violated any tenant rights by changing the locks and refusing the landlord access. The eviction hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Derek texted me once during that time, "I hope you're happy. Mom won't stop crying and Dad won't talk to me. You've destroyed this family." I didn't respond. Mom called me 3 times. I answered the 3rd time. "Honey, please. Can't you two work this out? He's your brother." "Mom, he tried to steal my house. He forged documents. He went through my personal papers." I know. And what he did was wrong. But he's family. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive him?" "Forgive him? He's not even apologized. He still thinks he was in the right. He's confused. He's been struggling for so long. And seeing you succeed while he flounders, it broke something in him. That's not my fault, Mom. I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking you to have compassion. He's your brother. He stopped being my brother when he changed those locks." Silence on the other end. "Then, don't say that. Please don't say that." But it was true. The person who stood in my doorway and told me this was his property now, who planned for months to steal from me, who forged my signature, that wasn't the brother I grew up with. That was a stranger wearing Derek's face. The eviction hearing was brutal. Derek showed up with Marcus Webb, both of them in suits, looking professional and wronged. Derek testified that I'd offered him permanent residence, that we'd had an agreement he could stay as long as he wanted, that he'd invested his own money into improving the property. All lies. Victoria systematically destroyed each claim. Showed my mortgage payments, my property tax payments, my utility payments. Showed that I'd been paying for everything while traveling. Presented the notebook as evidence of premeditation and fraud. When she submitted the forged quitclaim deed, the judge's expression turned to stone. "You attempted to forge your brother's signature to transfer property title?" the judge asked Derek. "That was just. I was exploring options. I never filed it. Because forging someone's signature is a crime, Mr. Whitmore, whether you file the document or not." Derek's lawyer tried to salvage things. Argued that the notebook entries were taken out of context, that Derek had been emotional and writing his feelings, not plotting a crime. The judge wasn't buying it. "I've heard enough," she said. "This court finds that the respondent was a guest in the plaintiff's property, that there was no lease agreement, oral or written, and that the respondent has acted in bad faith throughout these proceedings. Eviction is granted. The respondent has 72 hours to remove all personal belongings from the property. A sheriff's deputy will be present to supervise the removal and ensure no property damage occurs." Derek's face crumpled. Furthermore, the judge continued, "This court is referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation of attempted fraud and identity theft. Mr. Whitmore, you should expect to be contacted by law enforcement." We filed out of the courtroom in silence. Derek wouldn't look at me. Marcus Webb was already on his phone, probably calling another client, already moving on to the next case. At the bottom of the courthouse steps, Derek finally turned to face me. "I hope you're proud of yourself," he said. "I'm not proud. I'm relieved this is over." "It's not over. The DA is investigating now. You really want to see your brother arrested? You really want to keep pretending you're the victim here?" He laughed, but it was bitter. "You never understood. You've never had to struggle for anything. Everything comes easy for you. The job, the money, the house. Meanwhile, I've been working dead-end jobs and living paycheck to paycheck. I finally saw a chance to have something of my own, and you couldn't even let me have that. It wasn't yours to have. That's the whole point. It should have been. You don't need it. You're never there. You're always working, always traveling. What's the point of owning a house you never live in? That doesn't give you the right to take it. Right? He shook his head. Rights. Laws. That's all that matters to you. Not family. Not compassion. Just your precious property rights. You changed the locks on my house and tried to steal it, Derek. You forged my signature. This isn't about compassion. This is about you committing fraud. Fuck you, he said quietly. Fuck you and your perfect life. I hope that house brings you nothing but misery. He walked away. That was the last conversation we had. The supervised removal happened 3 days later. Derek showed up with a moving truck and 2 friends. The sheriff's deputy checked every box, made sure only Derek's belongings were being taken. It took 4 hours. Derek found the notebook, his journal of planning the theft, in my office. Victoria had made copies, so I'd returned the original to where I found it. You read this, he said, holding it up. It was in my house. Evidence of you planning fraud. It was private. Nothing in my house is private to you anymore. He threw it in a box and carried it out without another word. When the truck was finally loaded, the deputy did a final walkthrough with me. No damage to the property. Nothing missing except Derek's belongings. Clean exit. You get your house back, the deputy said. That's a win. It didn't feel like a win. It felt like I'd lost a brother and gained an empty house. Over the following months, things settled into a new normal. The DA's office did investigate. They filed charges for attempted fraud and identity theft. Derek pleaded it down to a misdemeanor with probation and community service. No jail time, but it was on his record now. Mom stopped calling me. Dad called once to say Derek was living with them again, that he was struggling but getting help. Dad didn't ask me to forgive Derek. He just wanted me to know. I went back to work, but I cut back on travel. Worked from home more. Actually lived in the house I'd fought so hard to keep. And slowly, very slowly, the house started feeling like mine again. I repainted the spare bedroom, replaced the furniture Derek had moved, set up my office the way I wanted it, gradually erased the evidence of those 8 months. But I couldn't erase the knowledge of what he'd done, what he'd been willing to do. I thought about the conversation at my parents' house, when Derek said I'd always gotten everything handed to me. The truth was more complicated. I'd worked hard for what I had. Long hours, delayed gratification, strategic career moves. But I'd also been lucky. Right opportunities at the right times, no major setbacks. Derek had worked hard too, but life had been less kind to him. Jobs that didn't pan out. Relationships that failed. Setbacks that compounded. I could understand his frustration. I could even understand the jealousy. But I couldn't understand the betrayal. There's a line between envying someone's success and actively trying to destroy them. Derek crossed that line. He planned it, executed it, and showed no remorse even when caught. That's what I couldn't forgive. 6 months after the eviction, I got a letter from Derek. Handwritten, postmarked from across the state. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity won. I'm writing this because my therapist says I need to take accountability. So here it is. I'm sorry. I was wrong to try to take your house. I was wrong to betray your trust. I was wrong to let my jealousy turn me into someone who would steal from family. I don't expect you to forgive me. I probably wouldn't forgive me either. But I want you to know that I understand now what I did and why it was wrong. It wasn't about the house. It was about feeling like a failure compared to you, and thinking that if I could just have something you had, I'd feel successful too. That was stupid. I see that now. Success isn't something you can steal. It's something you build. I'm trying to build now. I got a job in Seattle. It's not great, but it's something. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. I'm not asking for reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and I'm trying to be better. Derek. I read the letter 3 times. It sounded sincere. It sounded like maybe he actually understood what he'd done wrong. But words are easy. Change is hard. I filed the letter in my desk drawer and didn't respond. Maybe one day, years from now, Derek would have actually changed. Maybe he'd have rebuilt his life and become someone who didn't let jealousy turn him into a criminal. Maybe one day I'd be able to look at him and see my brother again, instead of the person who tried to steal my house. But that day wasn't today. Today, I was just a guy who owned a house in a good neighborhood, who had a successful career and a life that was finally stable again, who had learned the hard way that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair, and who had learned that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who are supposed to love you. I thought about calling my parents, asking how Derek was really doing, but I didn't. I thought about responding to the letter, acknowledging his apology, but I didn't. Instead, I locked the letter in my desk, locked my front door with the new deadbolt, and went about my life. The house was mine. Legally, unquestionably mine. But it felt emptier than it had before. Not because Derek was gone, good riddance to that nightmare, but because every room reminded me of what he'd tried to do. Every lock reminded me of the day I came home to find myself shut out. Every corner held the ghost of those 8 months when someone I trusted was plotting to destroy me. I'd won the legal battle. I'd kept my property. I'd protected myself. But the cost was a brother I'd never get back. And late at night, alone in the house I'd fought so hard to keep, I sometimes wondered if the victory was worth the price.